My name's Kenydie Jancy. I'm the social media director here at Grace, and it's been a privilege. One thing that God has taught me about the story of Mary is that living a Christian life is just simply overwhelming. We are not promised an easy life as Christians or God's daughters, as the women in the Bible. We're dependent on His providence in order to accomplish His will. It says in Luke 1:29 that Mary was greatly troubled when Gabriel appeared to her. And honestly, it's understandable that she was greatly troubled and concerned. She was young. She was not married. The social opinions would probably not be graceful to her. Not to mention the fact that Mary probably had her own plans for her life. Her response, though, was not, let me think it over for a day or two, or anything like that. She immediately knew that that's what God's plan was for her. She accepted it. She said yes to God's plan. Before the angel departed from her, she responded to him that, "Behold, I am the servant of the Lord. Let it be to me according to your word." So her willingness to just immediately accept God's plan is just such an example to me, and how deeply we should trust God and His plan for us and His will for our lives. In Matthew 22, Jesus tells us the greatest command is to love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your soul, and all your mind. And if we truly love God in this way, we can trust that He'll protect us and He'll guide us, even if it's not in the way that we expect. He's promised to be with us, and with such a promise, we can be overwhelmed with His greatness and His power, His love, rather than being overwhelmed with the trials of this life or the uncertainty of this life. So I think being a mother or mommy is a perfect example of grace and grit, because it takes equal parts. Being graceful as a woman is what our children need, what our kids need in a mom. We are the nurturing side of the family equation that God has designed. But it also takes a gritty determination to show up every day, then also having the grit to humble yourself and ask for forgiveness when you fall short in anything that you do. I oftentimes look at the little hands and feet of my babies and wonder what their hands will do and where their feet will take them. And I wonder if Mary did the same, or if she had any clue what miracles Jesus would perform with His hands, or how many miles He would walk to go and teach His people. I think it takes serious grit as a woman to raise children and to do your best to train them up in the way they should go, as we are told in Proverbs. I don't know what God's plan for my babies are, but I know that I am His tool to cultivate their souls. Mary's immediate response to the news that she was presented with was immediate submission, and her submission to God's will was an act of worship. She continued to worship God afterwards. She sang songs of praise. So oftentimes I think it's easy to ignore the prods of the Holy Spirit, to make an excuse as to why we can't do something, or we shouldn't follow through with something. So the questions that I have to ask myself are, do I see God as big as Mary saw Him? Do or will I submit to God the way that Mary did? Will I worship Him no matter how overwhelming or uncertain His plan for me is? If I can be upset, I could question His divine plan, I can question His sovereignty, or I can choose to obey. I can worship Him knowing that His ways are greater than my ways, and that all things He works for the good of those who love Him. And it may not be what I expect, but it's my job to submit to Him and to His will and to worship Him just as Mary did.